The Shmaya, I want you to know one of the main goals that we have in our learning together is I want you guys to become Jewishly literate. I want you to become independent in your learning and to become literate as Jews and know how to learn and grow in your learning to such a degree where you can explore the vistas of Hashem's Torah. The vistas. You like that one? The vistas. Once you start seeing the vistas, then everything opens up. It's very, very important because everybody knows that we have an expression, we say it in Yiddish usually, but every single Jew needs to either be a rabbi or somebody that could drive his rabbi crazy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's no such thing as not being learned. Everybody learns. We're crazy about literacy and education. You have to learn and have to know how to learn. And that's why we're so into you guys becoming independent in your learning. And then you could fly. Then all of this is at your fingertips. You could access, you could explore the depths of Hashem's Torah and think things through deeply yourselves. And therefore, people usually ask, how long do I have to stay in yeshiva? Or should I stay in yeshiva? A major part of that answer is to become independent in your learning. That you feel I could open up Sfarim, I could learn myself, I could develop an approach in learning Torah. So that is a major goal that we have. And therefore, what are we learning today? One of the most important ways to access that, we're going to be starting a topic today we're going to do for a little bit, and then we're going to be moving into, if God forbid Mashiach is not here, we're going to be moving into speaking about the 9 days and about why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. But as an introduction to that, we're going to be learning today, as we're going through the Siddur, about the blessing of learning Torah. Learning about the blessing of learning Torah. Birchas HaTorah. Okay? Birchas HaTorah, we say it every single day before we start learning. You're not allowed to learn before you make Birchas HaTorah. I'm reading from the Shulchan Aruch. Siman Mem Zayin, very important to look it up, 47. Birchas HaTorah, the blessing that we make on learning. Before we learn, that we make a blessing on our learning. We'll see, why can't I just learn? What do I mean to make a blessing on my learning? Tzarich lizaher ba me'od, to be very careful with this blessing. Usually it's one of the first ones in the morning, so people are still getting the Z's out of their eyes. Make sure that you put intention into this blessing. Very, very important. Me'od. Are we allowed to learn anything before we make this blessing? Nothing. What about reading but not saying words of Torah? It's a machlekes. The Vilna Gaon says you shouldn't even think words of Torah before you make the blessing. Which really means, as soon as a Jew wakes up in the morning, what should be his consciousness as he's coming back down into this world? Mode'ani, and basically how quickly can I get to Birchas HaTorah? It's like being offline, like nothing's going on, and all of a sudden you just like push online and a person who hasn't made Birchas HaTorah, he's offline with God. Birchas HaTorah puts you online with God. So you want to be able to make Birchas HaTorah as quickly as you possibly can within the Seder, like we've been learning of the Siddur. Birchas HaTorah is very, very powerful. Very powerful. V'yevarach oisa b'simcha gedoyla, says the Mishnah Berurah. Quoting from Chazal, you should make this bracha with a lot of simcha. Why should you have so much simcha, so much happiness when you make Birchas HaTorah? So the Torah is a gift. And the Torah is the greatest way that we could cleave to God's infinite wisdom, which is the greatest pleasure in the world. And therefore, you don't think you'd have happiness? If you're cleaving to the ultimate pleasure of life, connecting to God's wisdom, very important, tremendous simcha. And now I'm going to tie it in as the 3 weeks are upon us, which are very challenging times for the Jewish people. We lost our the Batei Mikdash. We lost so many things happened during this time. And the Gemara points out a very interesting thing, that what's one of the reasons why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed? It says that we did not say Birkas HaTorah. Now what does that mean? We didn't say Birkas HaTorah. We didn't say this blessing before we start learning Torah. It should be so severe that we should lose the Beis HaMikdash? I mean, that's a bit intense, no? Like, what's up with that? You know what I'm saying?
What's the record for that?
The Gemara. So it says, Alma of the Haaretz. Why was the land destroyed? V'yomer Hashem al ozvam toirasi. That's the pasuk, that's the Navi, that's the prophet. Because they abandoned my Torah. So what do you mean? Did they really abandon the Torah? In the times of the Beis HaMikdash, there was tons of Torah being learned. So they abandoned the Torah? The prophet says that why was the land destroyed? Because they abandoned Torah. What do you mean? Everyone was learning, everyone was shtagging. There were tons of yeshivas back then. Sounds like now. So why was things destroyed? Says the Gemara. Shedavar zeh nishal anavim alma of the aretz sheYisrael hayoiskim b'Torah. We were learning Torah. Umatzinu shekol zman shayoiskim b'Torah. All the time that we're learning Torah. V'iter HaKadosh Baruch Hu alav v'neisayim. As long as we're learning Torah, Hashem says, I know that there were things that you did that weren't exactly so perfect, but the fact that you're holding on to my Torah, Hashem says, I'm willing to just wait on those things that you did that were not so perfect. And hopefully you're going to fix those also. But I'm not going to immediately give punishment for those, as long as you're learning Torah. V'lachein lo yodu alma avda. So they didn't know. Why was the land destroyed? They're learning Torah. V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu aboyachin levavos yoda. But Hashem, He knows. Meaning they were troubled with this. I thought when we learn Torah, it protects us. Well, we were all learning Torah. So why was the land destroyed? They said we're all learning Torah. It should be that we have the protection, that Hashem is going to not bring the destruction. But Hashem, who knows what's going inside the hearts of every single one of us. Hashem is what's called bochen levavot. He knows what's going on. Hashem and your wife. And probably your mother. Definitely your wife. Knows what's going on inside your heart. Hashem knows what's really going on inside of our hearts. Ki afal pi shaya oiskim b'Torah. Even though we were learning Torah, if anybody doesn't know what Torah is, it's Torah. Just an Ashkenazi way to pronounce it. And even though we were shtagging and learning a tremendous amount of Torah, but what was wrong? Hashem knew that when we were learning Torah, we were not learning Torah to bring us close to God. Do you know how we were learning Torah? We were learning Torah like any other bit of information. I went to my calculus class, I went to my trigonometry, and I went to my Talmud class. We were learning Torah like another subject. That's why I always had this thing that got to me a bit. You know, people have a thing like they have Torah on the phones. Like it's like Torah app. Like, Rabbi, don't worry, this is a kosher one. It's got, look, I got everything on here. So I always had this feeling like, it's nice. But it was always like, it struck me, and I always thought about this, because, I don't know, maybe this is different, but I think, like Netflix app is like this, and this one is like this, and Hulu is like this, and this one's like, it's Smash Bros app is like this, and Torah is like this, and Siddur, they're all the same size app, right? Just like another app. It's not like the Torah one is like this huge app, and then the other ones are like this little tiny thing on the side, right? It's all this, it's like just another app on the thing. It's just, Torah is just another app on the device. It's not so good. It's just another app, right? Same size as every other app. It could be the same size as Netflix.
You gotta make it bigger.
Okay, so get involved. Fine.
Get involved.
Lefi this.
David's in touch.
Fine. Okay. Get your tech guys together.
You could have like a widget.
You have a huge widget. That is just Torah.
Okay, I'm just saying that this would go along with the principle we're learning now, that Torah became like just all the other things. It was just like something else, which means we were learning, and it happens to be that we went to more Torah classes than anything else. But we saw it as like just any other thing. We didn't put importance in the Torah. We were learning it. And you know what? We were big in learning. We knew tons. All the kids knew stuff. But why were they learning? Just to be smarter than the other guy. They weren't learning to be close to Hashem. And therefore, when we said that Torah protects us, and Hashem gives tremendous blessing to the world through our Torah learning, that's Torah learning when we're learning it to be close to Hashem. But if we're just learning it like any other chokhmah, like any other bit of information, then we lose that protection. Do you know when we also had this phenomenon, and it was strong in the times of the Greeks, in the times of Hanukkah? What happened in the time of Hanukkah? You know, the Greeks, they were not into certain things we were doing. They had a problem with Shabbat, with Rosh Chodesh. They were also not into learning Torah. But is that entirely accurate? I'll bring you a proof that they actually didn't have such a problem with Torah. They actually thought the Torah was exalted. They wanted the Torah translated into Greek. That was seen as a great thing. They saw the Torah as this amazing work of brilliance. The Torah is very gorgeous. It's deep. They wanted to translate it into Greek. They didn't have a problem with Torah. They had a problem with getting close to God through the Torah. Calculus, trigonometry, Torah, Shakespeare, it's great. Same size app. But don't tell me for 1 second that the Torah makes you close to God. So in the times of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, we were learning a lot of Torah, but we weren't coming close to God. I was one time in yeshiva, and there was a guy that was learning day and night. And I felt like he was getting a bit off balance with his learning. So I said to him, I was a bit chutzpahdik, I said, I knew what I was going for. And I said to him, I said, my dear friend, can I just ask, I see your day and night in the Beis Medrash, can I ask you how your relationship with Hashem is going? So he said to me, Hashem, I'm too busy learning Gemara. I have no time to think about Hashem. I was so sad. Anybody who's been in yeshiva for a while will get what I'm saying. What do you mean? Like you're learning God's Torah? What do you mean? Like how could that ever happen? Isn't it all God? It is. But the Torah can be, so to speak, pulled away from God, that it just becomes like another subject. And therefore, what do you have to do in order to cleave to Hashem? To show that when I'm learning Torah, it's not just another subject. The Torah is here to change my life, change the way that I see everything, to make me a better person, a kinder person, a more loving person, a more godly person. Do you know how you tap into that? It's called 2 Hebrew words. Birchas HaTorah. This is what was not happening at the times of the destruction. We were learning Torah, but we weren't making a blessing on the Torah. And now we can relate more why that was so severe. Because if you're learning Torah, but you took God out of the Torah, then we lost that divine protection. And therefore, when you make Birkas HaTorah every morning, it is mega. It is mega powerful. We're going to spend a couple days on really getting this concept. And hopefully Mashiach is going to be here by the end of this. B'ezrat Hashem, so we won't have to talk about all the Tisha B'Av Gemaras. Or really, we'll show you all the Tisha B'Av Gemaras is hinting to the greatest blessings in the whole world. Like the Ben Ish Chai himself, in the admonitions and the very difficult parts of the Torah, explain how all those things are really blessings in disguise. And we hope we're going to see those blessings, B'ezrat Hashem. And therefore, what does the Gemara say? Why were we not given that protection? Because of course we were learning Torah, but we weren't making the blessing on the Torah. And therefore, Hashem saw into our hearts. If if you're only learning the Torah just like trigonometry, you don't go into trigonometry and just say, oh, I'm going to get so close to Hashem through this trig. This is going to bring some tremendous, deep spiritual connection to you. It's trigonometry. You do what you got to do. Get the job done. But before you learn Torah, you're thinking, Hashem, I want to be deeply close to you. I want to cleave to you, on my soul, and so to speak, your soul to intermingle. I want to ingest your wisdom. I want to become one with you, Hashem. I want the wisdom of life of the Creator of the world to come into my heart. I want it to change me. I want to have a good marriage. Yes, Yankov.
Once you get that connection with learning Torah, shouldn't that also overflow into other subjects?
It can. That's why the Vilna Gaon and the Ramban and the Rambam and other great sages and the Lubavitcher Rebbe and Rav Soloveitchik and others who went into secular studies. The Chazon Ish, he knew certain things in other ways. He opened up sometimes textbooks and certain things. Is that if you see it all as an expression of God, then you could find God everywhere. But it's much harder there because it's more concealed. Even though it's true. 1 + 1 = 2. It's true. Even though you'll go to certain universities and they're going to say like 1 + 1 = 3. And they're like, oh, that was so profound. Like, what's he going to do next? Well, the answer is 1 + 1 = 2. And we know that that's true. Anything which is true is godly. And therefore you could find God in these places. But it's not as explicit. It's called the Chachma from Shviras HaKelim. So to speak, God is hard to find there. That's why oftentimes what happens is a person goes into these subjects and he forgets God. He becomes God. He makes himself God. That's why it's a bit dangerous to go into these subjects without having Hashem firmly planted in your heart first. But the Vilna Gaon and the Ramban and the great sages who were so firmly planted into God, when they would learn trig and calculus and music theory, they became filled with godly life. And you can do this. The Rambam was one of the greatest doctors in the whole world, a great physician. He knew how God's workings in the body and how it's brilliant. Most people who delve into the natural sciences, into mathematics, even though they're delving into truth, it's sad, many are not religious. Which many quantum physicists are like coming to the exact opposite conclusion. The more that you delve into existence, the more you will find God. But you got to really look deeply. God doesn't scream out. He's more concealed. You could lose yourself in making nature God. So you have to be careful. But in Torah, it's the exact opposite. In Torah, God is screaming. He's here. But even in Torah, if a person wants, this is the power of free will, you could even take God out of Torah, God forbid, and turn it into just another subject, just another app on the phone. And therefore, Moshe Chaim, what do we have to do?
Make the app bigger.
Either make the app bigger or make Birchas HaTorah to show the importance of learning Torah, of whose Torah we're learning. And we're going to go into that together, B'ezrat Hashem. V'lechein. And therefore, Shaloi Haisa Torah Chashuva Beineim. During that time, the Torah became less important in our eyes. And therefore, Lechein Loi Hegena. And therefore, listen to this. We weren't afforded divine protection. V'lechein, therefore, Tzarech Me'od Litein Hoida. Therefore, you have to give tremendous thanks. Al Shebachar Banu. That Hashem, you gave us your Torah. V'nosan lana kli chemdasai. And you gave us your Torah, which is this very precious, precious gift. Do you know the Torah is the vessel that God made the whole world from? God looked into the Torah and made the world. That's pretty special stuff, no? Which means you want to make your world, you want to design your reality. Everyone's into lifestyle design. How do you do that? GQ magazine? No! The way you do it is learning Torah. is looking into the Torah and designing your life through the Torah. You're actually going to create the world that you want through the Torah. Yes, Tavi.
Wait, so God looked...
GQ? I'm just kidding.
God looked at the Torah and created the world.
Yes.
But I thought he made the Torah after he created the world.
The Torah is pre-creation.
When God was just sitting outside of space and time, not doing anything, he was just chilling with the Torah?
Well, the Torah is deep. The Torah is, so to speak, God's thoughts, his inner universe. I'm
nodding, but it's merely just, it's a reaction. It's not like an actual me understanding this. Like, I was once supposed to contemplate that.
Our contemplation only starts after creation.
Right.
Because we can't conceive of a world of infinity before creation.
Right.
We can get to as far back to the Reisha Deloy Isyada, to the beginning that's not known. We can get all the way there, but before that, we can't go. We can get to the beginning, which is not known, and talk about that. But before that, there's nothing that we could say.
What beginning that's not known? What is that?
The beginning that's not known is the beginning, the first moment of God revealing a creation.
The first moment of creation.
And right at that second, which we can't know, at the beginning, but we can say it's a beginning that's not known.
Is this Kabbalah?
Yeah.
Where could I find it?
You have to go to big Kabbalists for this stuff.
I'm talking to them.
My suggestion is just learn Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos as much as you can, and then you'll get there.
Okay.
Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos. That's the way to become independent in your learning in order to...
That's more like logical stuff, though. It's not...
It's logical also that there's things that I can't fully understand with my logic. I could logically get to a reality, Tavi, that there's an infinite that created finite existence, and therefore it's logical that if there's an infinite, which I got to through logic, because finite is a non-starter, it's logical to say that there'll have to be things that I won't be able to understand. And therefore, a person can nod and say, it actually makes sense that there's things that I won't be able to understand in that realm of Kabbalah. Where we discuss things is after the creation, and even there's things that are beyond, but you could begin a journey of understanding those things. The Torah, though, is in the first beginnings of God revealing a plan and a purpose for creation. That revealing this very, very almost infinite world is the world where the Torah exists, is also the world where the purpose of existence is happening. And then as we come down through the spiritual worlds, down to this physical world, God is, so to speak, creating it out of the Torah. And then it comes all the way down until there's actually letters on a piece of paper that you and I could learn. And we could ingest the wisdom of the Torah the way that it looks all the way up there. That's why, by the way, one of the famous accounts in the Gemara, which talks about the giving of the Torah, is Moshe Rabbeinu goes all the way up to get the Torah. And the angels come. You know what the angels say, my friends? Say, don't give this person the Torah. He's made out of flesh and blood. He's born to a woman. Moshe, you're going to give the Torah to Moshe? He's a Yelud Isha. He's so mortal. Give the Torah to us. Tenu hoidcha l'shamayim. Leave the Torah up here in heaven. So, what does Hashem say? Moshe, answer the angels. By the way, it gets crazy over there. There's like fireballs going all over the place. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm scared. Hashem says, don't worry, grab onto my throne of glory. There's some cool things happening over there that need depth of understanding. And then finally, though, Moshe Rabbeinu answers. And what's his answer to the angels? Defending why he himself and the nation of Israel should receive the Torah. He says, let's open the Torah. What does it say in the Torah? It says, Work for 6 days and rest on the Shabbos. You angels, do you go to work that you need a Shabbos, a day of rest? It says, honor your father and mother. Do you angels have a father and mother that you need to honor? No. Maksivba. Do not murder. Do you have such tendencies? Do not steal. Do you angels have theft up there in heaven? And he goes through the Torah. I'm the Lord your God that took you out of Egypt. Did you angels, were you subjugated to all the torture and affliction in Egypt that you were taken out of Egypt? No. And the Torah concludes, therefore it belongs to the Jewish people. And the Torah is given to Moshe Rabbeinu and given to you and I. So the question I have for you, my friends, is, why did the angels even think that the Torah should belong to them? Just open it up. It's clear that it wasn't written for them. What were they saying? And what this will end. What were they wanting? It was like, oh, I guess we didn't open it.
Connection to Hashem and understanding of the world.
They were trying to touch the Torah the way it looks all the way up there, before it comes into letters. The way the Torah looks like when it's one with God, that Torah, they said, we want that Torah. And Hashem said, no. The Torah belongs to those that are all the way down in this world, in the world of darkness. This is going to be the best place to give the Torah. But the Torah exists up there, in a very exalted place. And therefore, when you learn the Torah, you can cleave to the deepest, deepest part of Hashem. The Torah and Hashem is one. And therefore, if you take the Torah and just make it like any other mathematics class, and remove the relationship, then the divine protection goes away, God forbid. And that's why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. We were losing that relationship. But for us, we want to rekindle that relationship. We're going to see that's going to come through Birkas HaTorah. We should be zeichen this Bezrat Hashem to say Birkas HaTorah with kavanah, with simcha, with love, and with sweetness, that it should mix within us in a very, very deep way. God's wisdom, Bezrat Hashem. Amen. Amen. Shavua Tov. Have a wonderful day, my friends. Kol Tuv.